Good morning. So today we'll discuss one of the most important aspect in Indian foreign policy. So the very popular Panchashila principle. Fine. So although it's a very long background. Although this principle was accepted as part of India's relation with China, but in subsequent period, Panchashila emerged as the most important principle between India and the world. That means it became the guiding principles of Indian foreign policy. Fine. Coming to the background, so the Panchashila principles were signed between India and China. Okay, that was in the year 1954. Fine. So initially signed between India and China in 1954. Fine. As as part of the bilateral agreement. Okay, but in subsequent period, okay, this has been extended to the entire global domain. Okay, so it was Prime Minister Nehru who enunciated this uh, principle in a broadcast speech made at the time at the Asian Prime Minister Conference at Colombo. Okay, so he highlighted it as India's principle of bilateral relations with other countries of the world. The word Panchashila denotes five taboos which used to govern the personal behavior of Indian monks as described in the ancient Buddhist scripture. Under Nehru, this idea was to become a central theme guiding the relationship among the international states. The Panchashila principle was signed between India and China. Okay, the same principle proposed to govern the Indo-China relationship, which was enshrined in a trade pact between the two countries, streamlining their bilateral trade operations on Tibet. Based on this, India and China has agreed to follow the principles in their bilateral relationship. Fine. It was Pandit Nehru as Prime Minister of India. It was in the year 1955, sorry, 54, that this principle announced. So they are announced as principle of bilateral trade between India and China, especially relating to Tibet. But subsequently, this principle, because of its wider acceptability, popularity, and its universal acceptance, okay, so they became part of Indian foreign policy. Fine. So let's discuss what are this Panchashila principle. Fine. So as I told you, so they are first enunciated formally in the Agreement on Trade and Intercourse. So as part of Agreement on Trade and Intercourse, Agreement on Trade and Intercourse between India and China. And the Panchashila Agreement, okay, so they, they are signed between the India and China in 1954. Fine. What are the five principles? Okay. First is mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Most important one, because for an independent sovereign country, so a nation or a country, okay, must have a So elements of states, as you say. So coming to the elements of state, you must have brief idea. Coming to the element of states, elements of a state. What are the elements? One is, so it is what? Population, territory, government, and sovereignty. One, two, three, and four. Fine. So the last one is the most important one. Okay. So here comes mutual respect. It's just territorial integrity and sovereignty. Two things. One is territory, and second is sovereignty. This is highlighted through this territorial integrity and sovereignty. So that implies that the country or both the sides should respect their territorial integrity, okay, of each other. They should not have any evil intention regarding the territorial desire in the other countries. Then the sovereignty. Sovereignty is the supreme power of the state. Sovereignty, has two connotations. One is internal, second is external. Fine. Internally, no other institution inside the country should have more power than the power of the state. And externally, none should exercise any control over the state authority. That means, fine. So, and externally, no other agency is above the state authority. So, in the first thing, so they want to say that mutual respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country in news that or in relationship. That means in neither India nor China have any look for the territorial integrity, that territorial integrity should be respected, as well as the sovereignty of each other. They should respect each other's sovereignty and must give the territorial domain so sanctity or sacrosanct. So no one should have any desire for the territory of the other. But if you see the recent development, so this is being violated by China because Chinese incursion. The first war between India and China was fought because of incursion. The recent tension is also regarding the incursion. Although this have been signed between the two sides, but they are not following it strictly in the true sense of the term. Fine. Then second thing is that mutual non-aggression. So aggression is a policy of, so part of the policy of expansion. Someone become aggressive. Aggressiveness is an animal tendency, as it is called. Okay. Human tendency is not aggressiveness, but human tendency is assertiveness. But assertiveness is lasting, but aggressiveness is temporary. So aggressiveness need the use of the force. Fine. So mutual aggression, non-aggression. So that means neither will be an aggression on the other. This principle highlighted neither side shall be an aggressor on the other. Fine. So mutual non-aggression. So they will agree or they must accept the principle that we will not be an aggressor on each other's domain. Let they be confined to the respective domain, and there should not be any scope for aggression. Aggression is always temporary. Aggression is always in the not in the interest of the country or nor the people of the country, because the country is for the people. The people are ultimately so who are living in the state of nature. They decided to form civilized society, a state system, national state system for better governance, for their making their life better. So if that is not possible, then there is no justification for the for the state to continue. So that's why so it is expected that so the aggression should be avoided as far as possible, and for that there should be mutual consensus or mutual understanding between the sides that we will not be aggressor on each other. They decided that we will not be aggressing country on each other. Fine. That is the issue of aggression and non-aggression. Fine. So here the second part or second principle is mutual non-aggression. That means both the sides they agreed that so they will not be an aggression on each other. Okay, and this is also when it is expanded broadly to other areas or other countries. So India also has expressed its desire very clearly that it has no aggressive tendency on any other country and its territory. Fine. So this is so Panchashira second principle is mutual non-aggression. It is a very broad principle which want to explain or want to highlight that so we should live in peace. Peace is always enduring, and aggression is always had its fatal consequences. Fine. Fine. The third option is non-interference. So, like human tendency, country have also a tendency to interfere in the affairs of the others. Fine. So it is a innate human tendency because because the state institution are run by human being. So like the human tendency of interference in others' affairs, the state also try to interfere in the affairs of others. But this is not good. Okay, so this is not good, and this is also not expected that you will try to interfere in the affairs of the others. Okay, we can be dependent, interdependence will be there, no doubt, but it should be interdependence should be beneficial to the sides, and so interference is something completely different from dependence. So interdependence is different, cooperation is different, and interfering in others' affairs in a negative way is a very uh, bad precedent, and it always derails the process and always destroy the normal relationship between the countries. So here it is mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Okay, so to say slightly more to elaborate this, you can say non mutual non-interference in each other's internal affair. Because to manage its own internal affair it has its own mechanism, own institution which will manage its internal affairs. Because interference always lead to further deterioration in the relationship, which is not at the benefit or not of any benefit to anyone. So that should be realized by the concerned parties. Okay, then next is equality and mutual benefit. Fine. So country, whether geographically large or small, rich or poor, strong or weak. Fine. So they should be treated equally because every country is sovereign internationally. So equality should be there. So there should be no discrimination on the size, its economic strength, its military power. Okay. So equality should be there and benefit should be mutual to both the sides because we cannot live in isolation. Okay. No country at present can live in isolation. None can live in isolation. So as will be dependent on other, so this benefit should be mutual to both the sides. Otherwise, so the other side is parasitic development. One will get the benefit, and the other side will not get that benefit. And with the country which is not getting any benefit will definitely retaliate. So because it is not getting any benefit by this relationship, by this strong bond, so the benefit should be mutual to both the sides. So there may be slightly plus or more or less, that is not that very important, but the most important part is, so it should be the benefit to out coming out of the relationship should be mutually beneficial to both the sides. So each side should get the advantage or the get the benefit of this relationship. This has been highlighted by the Panchashila principle. Fine. Then the last one is peaceful coexistence. Peace is the parameter for all development. Peace is the parameter for all development. A country in peace always go for prosperity, and the country not in peace always face the problem of scarcity, disease. So whatever comes, so it is because of that they don't have the scope for peaceful coexistence. They don't try for peaceful coexistence. If they ever try for peaceful coexistence, so it might not be possible on their part, okay, or to try for any conflict. Conflict is always against any civilized existence. So conflict is always at the cost of human being. Okay. So the peaceful coexistence will definitely lead the country to more prosperity. Peace brings prosperity to the country, and peace brings plenty to the people, and peace brings or enhances the image of the country as a pacifist country in the global community of nations. So both the sides agreed that we should go for peaceful coexistence and cooperation. So it is only mentioned as coexistence. We can add that. Okay, coexistence and cooperation among each other. Fine. So these are the five principles. So which are initially signed between India and China in their relationship. Okay, but subsequently they have been added to the principles of Indian relation with any other country of the world. And Nehru has told very popularly by signing this, Pathashri declaring this is, if these principles, try to remember this, If these principles are recognized in the mutual relations of all countries, then indeed there would hardly be any conflict and certainly no war. Okay, so this is the thing which guided Nehru. What he told? He told that if these principles were recognized in mutual relation of all countries, then indeed there would be there would hardly be any conflict. And certainly no war. It was told by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, if these principles were recognized, okay, in mutual relations and among of all the countries, then indeed there would hardly be any conflict and certainly no war. It was Nehru was had that much of confidence, that much of trust on this principle that he told such loudly that if these principles were recognized in mutual relations of the all countries in the world, indeed there would hardly be any conflict and certainly no war at all. Okay, with this much of confidence on the Panchashra principle, Nehru enunciated them. Fine, and that is what. Okay, and these principles were incorporated in a modified statement of 10 principles issued in 1955 at the historic Asia Africa Conference at Bandung, so which led to the creation of NAM. Fine. So these principles you can say. So these principles. So at the Asia Africa Conference, Bandung, Asia Africa Conference, 1955. These principles were accepted in modified format. Fine. And you can say the five principles they had been adopted in the Colombo and still from the basis of non-alignment and became the guiding principle of NAM, non-alignment movement. Okay. And even the United Nations General Assembly in 1957, the UNGA, okay, also passed a resolution on this, unanimously adopted. Panchashila as guiding principles for member countries for peaceful coexistence. Can see. Fine. That means the principle which were initially were for the two countries became universal principles. So let's see what is there. The ensign principles. The ensign principle in the Panchashila agreement were later to guide the relationship not only between the two countries but also their relationship with all the other countries. This was perceived as laying foundation for peace and security in the world. It was thought to give voice to the newly independent country as well as lowering the chance of war in the world. During the 1955 Bandung Conference, the 29 Afro-Asian countries, Panchashila tenets are incorporated into 10 principles of international peace and cooperation initiated in its declaration. These five principles are supplemented by other five, and these 10 principles of international peace and cooperation were enunciated in a declaration, and the United Nations General Assembly, as I told, also unanimously accepted these tenets in 1957. The same were also accepted as principle of the non-alignment movement. You see, so at the United Nations they are accepted, at the Operation Conference they are accepted, at the NAM Summit they are accepted. So these three things highlighted the importance of this particular principle in maintaining relationship with other countries. Okay, essentially the principles stand for non-use of force, approach of tolerance and peaceful coexistence. It allows all the nations to work towards peace and prosperity and cooperation while maintaining their national identity. That means all the countries of the world, so those who are members or even non-members, they should follow these principles, and these principles once so they became strong in bilateral relationship, okay, will definitely bring lasting peace to human civilization. So the present coming to the present relevance of this policy, okay. And even in 1979, our Prime Minister Bajpayee, our then Foreign Minister Atal Bajpayee, when he went to China, the World Panchashila found its way into the conversation during the talk with Chinese leader. The 50th anniversary of the Minister of Foreign Affairs People's Republic of China said that a new international order on basis of five principles of peaceful coexistence should be built. Okay, so that means so both the sides still realize the importance of Panchashila. Okay, and when our Vice President Hamid Karzai went to China, the Great Hall of the China in the Beijing for the commemoration of the 6th anniversary of the signing Pancasila Treaty so in 2027. Chinese leader Jinping also said that China is ready to work with India to seek guidance from the five principles of Panchashila. So that means after such a long period of its pronouncement, it still remain important. Okay, and the countries which are concerned with this, which have declared this, which have participated in it, they very well realize the importance of Panchashila principle and how they are to be the guiding principle for a lasting solution to so many global issues around the world at present. If these principles are followed as United Nations principle in the international forum, so it may bring a lot of changes, lot of transformation in bilateral relationship, and the nations instead of conflicting with each other will cooperate, live in peace, try for prosperity, and they will never try to interfere in the others internal affairs. Rather, without non-interference, following a policy of non-interference, it will be very beneficial for them to promote their interest, okay, and also to expose their principles and explore the possibility of support, cooperation, coexistence among the other countries of the world. Fine. So coming to relevance of Panchashila, Panchashila how they are relevant. Okay, the Panchashila is widely accepted, particularly among the ASEAN countries, as the foundation for establishing a just and equitable work order. This resembles with the UN Charter also, because UN also is for peaceful purposes. So the Panchashila principles are highlighted or are important from each aspect, and they were initially formulated by India as part of its foreign policy with China, but subsequently it has been extended to all other countries of the world, and the world is going to get the benefit. The world is benefited a lot to peaceful coexistence and cooperation. And although there is instances of war, destruction, terror, violence, but still the best option is peaceful coexistence, and not only coexistence that can be extended through cooperation between the two sides. Or so each other's cooperation will definitely build its more in a more stronger way, and that is why so constitutional principle remain very sacrosanct to Indian foreign policy even after it's more than around 70 years of independence. Fine. So thank you friends for watching this. So which will be you will watch such more programs in coming classes. So thank you.